And no, I'm good.
All right, we are now live. I'm here again with Mandisa Thomas to talk about the revival of Reason going down this weekend. Atlanta,
Yes.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Make some
Pew, pew, pew,
noise. Pew, pew,
pew, pew, pew,
pew.
What
Booyaka,
Tenzin? What
booyaka.
sound is that like on a mixer, like on like a
I
podcast
no,
mixer?
I would
What
think
is
that'd be
that
like the air
called?
horn or something like that.
Okay,
I
yeah.
would say so. I always heard, it's crazy because I'm used to hearing that at like, Caribbean parties.
Yes.
Doom, doom, doom,
Yeah.
doom, 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 doom,
Yes.
doom. Whew. Yeah, I got to be careful with, Caribbean dance hall because, like, I told you this story before, that Boom Bye Bye by Buju Banton. I used to
Oh
love it.
yeah, yeah.
Then I
Until
learned
people
what he was
realized
saying.
it
I was like,
was, yeah,
oh,
yeah. It's like
I don't support
yikes.
that.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
yeah,
no, no, no.
yeah,
Which
yeah.
I read a disturbing article about that like years ago. They were just explaining like, the origins of the rampant homophobia that was taking place in Jamaica. I don't know if it's still like that or not, but
Yeah,
back in the early 2000s and stuff, it was oof.
yeah,
Don't even
yeah,
think
it's
about
pretty
coming out of
bad.
the closet over there. But
Hmm.
I would, some people, some survivors of attacks would recall people surrounding them and singing that song.
Yeah,
Like, you know how horrifying that has to be? Like, they're singing a song celebrating your demise and they're about to hurt you.
right.
And the sociologist did say it was a mixture of, what, because I believe, in the Caribbeans, I guess buck breaking really was a thing, you know,
Hmm.
and also just the religion beaten into them, because obviously God hates homosexuality. Depending on which Christian you ask, which is why events
Right,
like Revival of Reason is important because, I mean, people scoff at the idea that religion can be traumatic, but it surely can. Like I myself, I mean,
right.
I was lucky enough to not be raised in a cult or anything extreme. Like now, I will say the church I went to when I was a high schooler, it was pretty close. I mean, but they were just really old school. And I'm talking like these dorks really tried to start a petition to close the local starship. And at the time, I was still a believer, but in the back of my mind, I was like, hold on now, let's not. Wait till I turn 18. I still want to go in. But yeah,
Right.
like, but what I'm saying is I didn't go through any extreme abuse, but just the idea, like, just the idea of being haunted by the fact that you can be tormented forever if you
Right.
do something, you know, the patriarch doesn't like.
Right. And people don't realize that abuse takes on many forms, right? It doesn't have to be outright you are being physically punished or that you are just being called out, every person but a child of, whatever God you believe in. Um, Abuse isn't always outward. It can be very subtle,
And,
and
right.
people don't realize that can actually be even worse because that is the part, the type that is truly ingrained in you, where you do things that you don't even realize that you're doing. So yeah.
Yeah, cuz like, and and granted you weren't raised in the religious community, but I know you're familiar with this. So what I myself and plenty other Christians slash former Christians confuse as humility was self-deprecation. I'm a
Hmm.
Lord, I'm a piece of shit. I'm worthless without you, Lord. Only because of your salvation, ever since that motherfucker ate that apple, I'm just the most horrid motherfucker.
Right.
You got to train yourself to say that, which I get it in comparison to this, perfect being. Yeah, sure, but yeah, it's just weird.
Yeah.
When I stepped out of religion, I was like, oh my God, this is like I used to tell my religious friends, like, please stop saying that.
Yeah,
Like, like
yeah,
you are good enough. Like, but yeah, it trains you to say that. And like you said about abuse taking on many forms, because even with, the stereotypical form of abuse, like it's always mental.
yes, yes, absolutely, it is. And people really don't realize that. They don't realize that the type of harm and the type of psychosis that it can create. And even, and I mean, yeah, no, I wasn't formally raised in a religious household, but there were a lot of like cultural things that I certainly had like a third party view, right? It was all around me in my neighborhood and in my family, and there are certain things that even if you aren't raised like a fundamental believer, that you are still indoctrinated in, and it is hard it's hard to sometimes it's hard to like get out of that mindset. It takes a long time. So yeah, you don't necessarily have to be like browbeat into this belief in order for it to be harmful in some way, in a lot of ways. So yeah, and that's why I'm glad that we are,
And
especially in these last couple of months
yeah.
have just been so long. Oh my goodness. So we need a revival, so to speak. We need a revival of reason. We need, it's
Right.
something that is good for
Most
us.
definitely.
Yeah.
And and just to go back to the religious trauma, before we became live, before we got on live, I was discussing with Mandisa that we're coming upon the anniversary of my uncle's death. He died March 26th of 2024. Um, so at his funeral, like I said, like in the Black Nonbelievers Facebook group, I always heard horror stories about pastors taking funerals as an opportunity to save souls. And I was like, wow, that's terrible. Then it finally happened to me. So, and I was very stunned which being a former Christian, I definitely understand the mindset of where she was coming from, but it was just gross to me. But I wanted to touch on this live because speaking back to the religious trauma, I mean, my she was 12 at the time, but my 13-year-old cousin, his youngest daughter. I mean, granted, she's religious, she believes in it, of course, but I can only imagine what those statements does to a young mind like that. You know, she's seeing her father's body, and now she's probably, I don't know, but she could possibly be wondering, holy shit, did I hope my dad was right with the Lord? Like,
Yeah.
plenty of things.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's I mean, unfortunately, these are things that are seen as normal, right? These are sayings, these are practices, these are, these little cultural norms that are supposed to be, they're just accepted and just tolerated. And it's like when you think about it, it's like, wait a minute. And from the outside
Right.
looking in, it's like, this is this is definitely abusive. This is definitely not something
Right.
that people should be, that people should be perpetuating, or that people should be saying. Because outside, like in any other context, it's very cruel. It's very it's very disrespectful. And it's just like, wow, like why would you do something like that?
And,
But unfortunately this
you
passed
know,
off as normal.
right. And to this day, like I've said in plenty of episodes before, and no disrespect to my brothers, my co-hosts. Yeah, if I'm unlucky enough for, that psychotic, self-absorbed, maniac to be in charge of the universe, then yeah, that makes me I'm still anxious about that. Like
Yeah.
you know.
I get it.
So,
I
but yeah,
totally get it.
and yes, and we're definitely in need of a revival. And I was thinking, you know how people just let, well, his supporters rather, they see with their own eyes, they hear with their own ears the disgusting, vile things that he'll do and say. But there's always an excuse for it. Just like with Yahweh. And I just want to know, is there like a, I mean, I'm no psychologist, but do you think there could be like a correlation with that? Like, because people can read clear as day what Yahweh allowed, what he commanded, and still call him the ultimate good. But it's like, what?
Well, there's
So,
definitely a correlation there, and I'm sorry, but there are a lot of conservative Christians who see our current leadership and our current president as the second coming of Christ, right? Even though he clearly does not really, well, I guess he would follow the Bible, and as we know about especially fundamental belief, where people are taught to follow without question. Of course, that big patriotic
yep.
voice is the one that if you don't obey, then then you are cast out. You are punished. Something bad is going to happen to you. We definitely see
I
that.
mean, yeah, I was gonna say that judge, right? Like, what was it? It was some, I forget which case it was, but it was some judge who didn't rule in his favor, and Trump's talking about,
Oh
oh, he needs to be
yeah.
impeached. I'm like, what?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Anything that
What?
offends his sensibilities. Now, mind you, of course, when the call for his impeachment was made, all of a sudden he's being persecuted. People don't like him. They're being mean to him. All these different things, right? It's
And,
just, yeah.
and
It's
that's the
just,
thing. Like,
mhm,
and just like Yahweh, right? Like, Trump's supposed to be their strong man, but he's such a baby.
mhm. He really,
Cries
really
about
is.
everything,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, like Yahweh, for instance. It's like, hey, you just made fun of my favorite prophet. I'm gonna send bears at, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
Yes. Yes.
so, and like you said, with this revival, I mean, because oof, the anti-intellectualism, even, right? Like, I mean, you talk to the king of these types of people. I mean, yeah, like, it's weird talking to somebody where you can give them, scientific facts to back up, what the mainstream is saying.
Mhm.
And they'll have the nerve to say, I respectfully disagree. What? And they'll pull up,
Mhm.
they'll just say they'll cite the Bible, or, like, you
Yeah.
talk to Dr. Dino himself. You could cite a Christian biologist, and he'll still be like, "Yeah, I don't know, they're wrong." What? Who are you? Who are you again?
Yeah. 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 Yeah, it really is about time that we really start leaning into each other, leaning into what you know how we are going to navigate these next few years. As a community,
Yeah,
how are we going to continue to show up for each other? What is it that we can continue to do and be consistent with it? Because it's going to be very, very important that we do so.
right.
And I know that it is so frustrating to deal with some of these folks, and it's so tempting to just like go ape shit on them.
Right. Just smash the
I
fuck out.
Yeah, I know. And
Because it's like, the thing is, with the revival reason, which obviously, we gotta attack we got to attack the stupidity from all angles. You know, we got to be diplomatic and we also got to be firebrand about it. Like, there is no one way. We got to do as many things as we can. We got to bombard them. But it's frustrating because it's like, how do you talk to somebody who doesn't want to be reasoned with? Because look, these policies ain't just for us. That's
Mm-hmm.
the thing about the policies we support versus the policies they support. They support the policies they support because they want to hurt. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It's like sometimes I feel like conservatism is like politics to just hurt someone. The politics
Yeah.
of spite.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there was some executive order to, I don't know, ban trans women from sports. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why? What the fuck are you
Yeah.
getting from that? And guess what? The people who propose the main proponents for it, they're still not happy about it. They said it's not hard enough. I'm like, are you not tired? But yeah, it's so how do you get to those people? I guess sometimes you
Well, the
can't.
thing is, sometimes, well, I think sometimes we are, and I know that it's in this world where we are on edge, and there are a lot of folks who are especially those who come out of religion, and it's frustrating, right? We have a tendency to just want to make people see the light, so to speak. But in
Right.
doing that, in totally focusing on that, you lose sight of who's already there. You lose sight
Mm.
on those who are doing the work to build up community and provide support. Like I said, we talk about Dr. Dino, right? That's like a once in a blue moon thing, right? That is
Right.
not where I like to focus my time and my energy, because there is value in liberating yourself from this indoctrination and finding others who have as well. And so if you constantly lament those who are never going to get it, then we are, it will make that, it will make that process much longer. Now, unfortunately, we are seeing these, we're looking at folks on the ground and how frustrating they can be, or like sometimes you're everyday people, but we now have folks in elected positions who espouse these ridiculous beliefs, and there's no one to
Right.
challenge them. So I would say that another way to start challenging them is to consider, if you have the wherewithal, to run for public office to get them out of those seats. Because people need to know, for one, that the non-religious demographic is a huge voting bloc,
Yes.
and that we are continuing to grow. And it is important that people need to understand the various ways that and the various resources that are out there, in order to because that's how they started getting in. They started getting in on their local levels. They started getting in, they were attending those meetings. And sometimes there are a lot of political seats where there's nobody either running against
Right.
an opponent, or they're unfilled. And those things may seem small, but they make a huge difference.
Right.
And so,
Exactly.
yeah, and that's how, like when you said we have to be, we don't have to be kind. I think there is a diplomatic way to tell people what they need to hear, even if it is unpleasant. But you do so in a way where you have the ability to really start maneuvering and almost like sort of beat them at their own game. The system can work if we work it. If that
Right.
makes sense.
I mean, it was definitely built against us, but we can use it for us. It is possible.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
and that's what I appreciate about the Black non-believers.
Hmm.
The way you guys. I mean, well, I say you guys. I'm not a part of it, but
Yeah.
like, yeah. I mean, just the way, like, I love the promotion of community.
Yeah.
Okay, even if that and we in a different different people can come together, diversity of minds,
Hmm.
especially those who think that New York has the best pizza. I don't know where you got that from, but
Because it says it right there. It said it. It's true because I said it, and that's all there is to it.
okay, we got Yahweh in the house.
Yes.
But yeah,
Oh,
but because of Black non-believers, that's how I met a lot of different kinds of Black people. Like I don't think I would have ever met like what was his name? Uh, well, I'm not gonna name names, but he was in a poly relationship. I never thought I would meet someone in a poly relationship before. Or there was this one guy, I only seen
there's a
him
few,
once, but
Daryl.
he
I
was
mean,
just
there's a
wearing
few people. There are a few folks.
but he was wearing a whole dress and a one of those big sun hats, and I didn't know, like, my small southern mind did not know how to think of that at the time in the meeting. I kept staring at him, and I was like,
Who
even
is
though I'm an
this now?
atheist,
Now
like,
I'm like, wait a minute.
like sometimes religion will still just be,
Yeah, that's why I was saying it's kind of hard to undo some of that
you
indoctrination.
know,
So,
but
but yeah,
but
no, I
be
totally get it.
but having the opportunity to be around LGBT people. Heck, I mean, you for instance, I mean, you called yourself omnisexual, and I'm just like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, omni pansexual. Yes. Uh huh. Yep.
What are these? What in the hell are these woke SJW communist Marxist words you're saying?
Right. It's so silly. Oh my
but
gosh.
but but I guess that's what I appreciate about atheism, because obviously, and your atheist isn't just gonna be, Tenzin. It's gonna be Mandisa. It's gonna be, this person, that person, and
Yeah, and there are different things that come
the
with
collab,
us. Hmm.
right? And the collaborations with the ex-Muslims and did you collaborate with the was there like a was there like a Puerto Rican non-religious group or
So I've had the opportunity to travel to Puerto Rico twice. Once in 2018 and then also in
ooh,
2019.
pre-COVID? That's what I'm talking
But
about.
I also had the opportunity to visit Nigeria recently, back in October
Hey,
of last year. And that, connecting with the Humanist Association of Nigeria, um, and of course, I'm a long time collaborator. I've worked with Dr. Leo Igwe. We featured him at events in Atlanta plenty of times, or not plenty of times, but we have spoken at some of the same events before, and we featured him in Atlanta in 2023 when he was doing like a U.S. tour, and also, yeah, we did an event with like back in 2020 with the Association of Black Humanists,
mm,
that was titled Atheists and Humanists, across the African diaspora. So I connected, folks that I met in Puerto Rico, in other parts of the Caribbean, Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, even India. So there
ooh,
were, yeah. So there was like a huge, that was just so amazing to to have that kind of that kind of connection, and I appreciate the fact that we have opportunities now for us to connect with each other, and that's why I'm really excited about our keynote speaker for the Revival of Reason, Mubarak Bala,
yes, yes.
who is
Finally free.
yes, from those ridiculous blasphemy charges that
And you
he
know what?
was.
You know what? This is gonna sound unpopular, but I do believe in the term shithole country because any country with blasphemy laws is a shithole. I'm sorry. Like what grow up. Grow
And
the fuck up.
there
And-
are some of the humanist leaders, Leo, his colleague Dominic, who works with the Association for Advocacy for Alleged Witches. Excuse me. They will tell you that Nigeria is, one of the most corrupt countries. And it's just sad, like the state of things over there at times. But yeah, any country
and
that would. Hmm.
right. And that goes to show you, like, that's, and and obviously the knee jerk reaction will be, oh, that's not the right Christianity. Oh, they're doing Islam wrong. Look, it doesn't matter. Y'all read the same shit. It's either way, it's the common denominator. Now, obviously, there are other factors such as colonialism and stuff like that. Social factors, but yeah, there's
Yeah,
religion has a part.
definitely.
It's a piece of
Yeah.
the puzzle.
Hmm. It really, really is. You're absolutely right about that. And
And
uh-huh.
no, I was gonna say, and like, unfortunately, I'm pretty sure, like, because I don't know if Nigeria has like a problem with like vigilantes, but poor Mubarak's gonna have to keep his head on the swivel probably for the rest of his life. If he stays in Nigeria, right?
He probably would, but I have it on good. I have good information that he will be. He's making moves. I'm not going to say what kind of moves because I don't want to. I don't want anything to disrupt that. But there are moves that he is making that is really good for him and his family, and will be good for his activism. So now that he's out, he is getting well, he got the support that he really needed in that global outcry when he was abducted and imprisoned. So yeah, but I am looking forward to people hearing from him in person and also virtually, because we do have a virtual option. This is one of our postal boards. You might be seeing it for the first time. 1010.
Yeah.
But this is one of our postal boards, and it says "Dare to Disrupt" because that is what we do at Black Non-Believers. And shout out to Deanna and her son Cole, who gave the idea for that little slogan there for that slogan. And so
Deanna and Cole.
Yeah, you're gonna see them. You're gonna meet them this weekend. And so yeah, I'm really, really just. It's about, we have been looking to disrupt shit for like a very long time, especially here at BN.
I mean, unfortunately, just existing is disruptive, depending on who you talk to.
Mm-hmm. Yes, like, it absolutely is.
It's like, because I don't know, it's like, where I work at, it's majority Black people.
Mm-hmm.
I know for sure if I wore a BN shirt in there, I'm getting publicly executed because I told you, like, this is a government building, okay?
And they're not supposed to be doing that there.
And I remember, granted, it's a retirement party, so I guess it's not work related, but still, I don't want to hear you praying. The fuck?
Yeah. And you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to hear them praying. That is just ridiculous.
Have some respect for our Constitution, but but yeah, but like I said, just existing, which and I loved what you said, Mandisa. We do have to focus on those who, those in our community who are actively in our community, those, and to be louder voices for those who are, thinking about it, like
who are thinking about it, who are questioning, who felt so isolated for so long, and who also aren't aware of the activism that has taken place in this community for years. I think there are some people, and people like Cynthia, goodness gracious, I always blush when she says this, but there was a time when, you Google Black atheists, there were a few names that came up. There were people like Alex Jules, Norm Allen Jr., you had some other people. But now when you Google Black atheists, And I've done this, right? I've done this, and I'm like, shit, I come up. And so,
Yay.
yeah.
Just don't look at any hate comments.
Well, no, no,
That's
no. The thing
all.
is, like, when you Google Black atheists, Mandisa Thomas, Black nonbelievers comes up. And I
Hey,
know
the
that is,
face.
well, yeah, I know that is because of, the work that we have been putting out there. And the fact that, it's, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I am still just, I mean, I'm not like a most wanted or one of the most dangerous people in America or whatever, but it does say a lot that there are some people who are still discovering that there are more of us out here. And I think it's also important for people to know that there is a history of humanism and free thought and atheism, and that is what Chris Cameron is going to cover at the Revival of Reason. He shout out to Chris Cameron. He's on our board.
Chris Cameron.
Yeah,
he blew
you
my
met
mind.
him. You met him before.
Yeah, he blew my mind when he told me about, there were actually like enslaved peoples who were actually like non-religious. I was like, whoa, that's amazing. Like, you know how strong your brain gotta be to like to not
resist,
need religion. I mean, I'm just saying, like, yes, like not only to just resist the indoctrination, but to just not even need it. Because I ain't gonna lie, I'd probably be leaning on the Bible heavy if I had to go through those conditions. Like,
well, we also have to give respect to those who were like, fuck this shit. Like, if this is what was ordained for me, then this is some bullshit. Mm-hmm. we have to give credit where it's due. And there were a lot of there were a few, I mean, and there, like, we think about like Nat Turner, right? Who he was a slave preacher, but he did not go for that. Well, that pie in the sky, freedom when I'm dead, right. Sort of thing. He was about that life. Right, he was like, exactly. We want our freedom now. And there were other slave revolts. So I think where I like to sit with many Black folks, right, who take this docile view towards like liberation and, how we just simply, we couldn't have made it here without God. It's like, no, there were even believers who were like, nah, we got to do something. We have to do something because this is wrong. And they recognize the humanity, like how they were being treated, how others were being treated was wrong and inhumane. So this is one of the reasons why, we do what we do. We disrupt that narrative and say, you know what? Right. Even for your own people, this was unacceptable to them. Right. So it's like, it's important that we continue to, educate each other on these things, on this information, support each other on it. And we have to make sure that, we are continuing to fight back, because there's a lot of, oh my gosh, this idea that the government was funding a study to make mice transgender. What? I'm not sure if you read about that. There was, but it was said in the State of the Union.
What was the actual word? Transgenous or something like that?
No, it's transgenius. And
transgenius. Okay,
yeah. And I watched the video, Professor Dave's video on it. And it was basically to, from in trying to put it in lay terms, it was the study of how certain hormones impact certain health issues, which is very, very much needed information. That's very much that is important research, because it helps cis people, cis identified, and it also helps trans people.
Excuse me, cis is a slur. So if you ask
oh my god, yeah, I saw something like that. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is with people?
Again, it's like they're the biggest babies ever. They so tough, right? Like, unlike you liberals, I'm not easily offended. Calls them a scientific term. What the fuck? Where's my gun?
Right. Yeah. But yet they want to abolish the Department of Education. Go figure.
Big John. and that's I don't know. It's a lot of just yeah, crazy decisions being made here, and again, that's why this revival of reason and like you said, just growing close to your community is so important than ever because I mean, obviously, we're no stranger to, you know, the government fucking us over, but ooh, we're in for it now.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, they are.
because these checks and
Yes,
balances ain't checking and balancing as we're seeing.
right.
Because ain't no way in the hell, a Democratic hell, like fucking 8 years ago, if someone even thought about doing something as illegal as stopping the funds that Congress already approved.
Uh-huh.
Get him the fuck out, kick his ass. Like I would probably hear Mitch McConnell say,
Mm-hmm.
kick his ass. Like ain't no way.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, it is just it is quite, it is
And
quite
and you know this,
yeah, no, go ahead. I'm
yeah.
listening.
I'm just saying, it's just disheartening. Like, cause coming like that first Trump Zelensky meeting, and I read Zelensky stormed out of the room furious,
Mm-hmm.
and I heard how they were. I'm like, he's playing with lives, just like he did with COVID, playing with lives,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and his base lets him get away with it, and we have to
He's playing with
disrupt
their
the
lives too.
narrative. And
He's playing.
they don't give a fuck. And that's the fucked up part about it. But yeah, that's why we have to be more disruptive, you know, speak out
And come
and
together. Come
yeah.
together and support each
Mhm.
other as much as we can. I mean, it's just going to be that. It's that real. It is that real and it is that serious. It really is.
And and so what and so there's gonna be a spades tournament that I know to sit out of because I know I'll probably get shot and be like, man, why you cut me from nigga? Pop. And then be like, rapper Tenzin died at a spades tournament. What the hell kind of
What kind of malarkey is this, right? So I held up, shout out to California Free Thought Day, who is one of our sponsors for the Revival of Reason. We have supported their event. We do so every October when they're out there in Sacramento. And they have put their names in support of the Revival of Reason. And they have some nice playing cards that we're going to be playing spades with. There are some other folks who want to play other cards. They are insisting that they are that they're going to play other
I
cards.
mean
I'm like,
now
okay, okay. But
if there's a Uno table, I may play that, but just be warned.
listen,
Uno brings out the worst in me. So you might hear
I
slurs, you might
haven't
hear cuss
played
words, and
Uno
then
in
you
forever. I
I
have
know
not
that
played
I
Uno in a very long time.
so you're probably like me then. You avoid playing it for good reasons because you're gonna go the fuck off on people
Well, my
like
thing is, I used to play Uno as a kid, and I was really good at it. I was very, very good at playing Uno. I just haven't played it in a
okay.
long time. I'm pretty sure that if I play it again, I will probably, I'll kick some ass.
Oh, oh well. Let's just say, like, I don't know what it is about Uno, but it's like, I I just turn into a different person. It's like you will be ready to throw hands with me, like just because, like, because I get so mad, and I'll talk real reckless. Like, let's just say you throw out a draw for, I'd be like, bitch ass nigga, fuck off. Like, I'll be like this.
You're funny.
Like, take that draw four and shove it up your ass. But I'll be real serious about it. Like, you'll be like, Tenzin, you need to.
Like, what
But
is really good with you, sir?
like, that's
That
what I'm
is
saying.
too funny.
I mean, I can play it, but I don't know. It's like I just don't. I just get so mad at it because it's like you be about to win, and then some fuckhead just throws out a draw 4 on you, you're like, oh, I can just punch you in the fucking face. Like,
Wow.
I guess it's a man thing.
Well, I mean, if folks may want to play Uno, if y'all want to get some Uno
Yeah, I don't want to
cards,
play.
that's so funny.
And
But yeah.
and for
Mm-hmm.
other curious minds, will the venue be 420 friendly?
Probably outside.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to I don't want to. I mean, we already can have, they're allowing us to bring whatever kind of alcohol we want, but I am not going to say anything
Okay.
if it's brought in. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm not because
What's the alcohol selection looking like? Because I
What?
saw your bar, and I was like, what's the alcohol selection looking like? Because I saw your bar,
It's
and I
gonna
was
look
like, oh
similar.
shit.
Yeah. It's going to look similar to what we have. For those of you who aren't, who don't know, I had a small New Year's Eve gathering at my house, and Tenzin was there, and we had a really good time. And so we have a very well stocked bar in our house, and so which is why people need to come over more often and hang out. But we.
Yeah.
We're going to have all kinds of liquor there. Now we will be offering like beverage packages for people, because we are trying to like fundraise. So, of course we can't specifically sell alcohol, but you can make a donation. You can purchase like a package, to help us raise money during the event. So, for of course you're a performer, so you don't, that's not the thing you have to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, the one thing that
Oh no, I was gonna say that's the one thing about the black non-believers. They can get fucked up too, man. Like that's the thing.
We love
we're normal people just like y'all.
Yeah,
People
and drinking, if alcohol, right? And if alcohol is not your thing, that's fine, right? Nobody's pressured into doing it, right? But we are not pretentious to the point where we feel like we're holier than thou, and that drinking is a sin, that all these things are sins, and you're going to go to hell for them, because people do it. I mean, it's just like, we always encourage everything, to be responsible, to be responsible. If you know that if you drink more than 2 rum and cokes, that you're going to be off your feet, you might just want to stick with 1 or maybe 1.5. Right. So, yeah, I think that is the way that, we want to encourage this, because when we don't like to infantilize people. Right. There are people who drink, there are people who may, and I am very much a proponent of the legalization of, of certain drugs. And I mean, yeah, why not? So yeah, I mean, we can definitely have some, as long as it's not like overpowering and we're not imposing on it, because there is a restaurant that is attached to the venue. So yeah, but we do want to make sure that we are respecting the space, but that we are also having a good time. So yeah.
And speaking of a good time, man, speaking of food, I heard the boy Uncle Al gonna be on the grill. What's up with that?
Alvin, who is a long-time being member, is going to be our grill master for the Friday night cookout. We are going to, we'll have all the usual, like hot dogs and burgers. Huh? What'd you say?
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do something very risky.
What's that?
What I'm gonna do? I'm gonna stand over Alvin's shoulder and be like, hey, I think you need to flip that. So just
you better not do that. Like, no.
Hey, bro, you got to burn that.
You better not do that. Alvin will fight you for that. You better not do that to Alvin.
He seemed like he's very like, hey, bro, don't. This is my sanctuary.
Don't kill my vibe. Don't kill my vibe over here. Yes, he will do that. But yes, Alvin's going to be on the grill for the cookout. And, we're going to be screening Contradiction and Jeremiah Kamara, who everyone should be familiar with.
Contradiction?
Yes, Contradiction. That it's technically on Amazon Prime, but we're going to watch it together as a group for those who have never seen it. And he's going to do some Q&A.
What's it about?
It is about like religion in our communities. And I'll tell you, there is a part of that if you've never seen it before, there is one particular part of it that is just, oh my gosh, it's heartbreaking. I will just tell you that Jeremiah interviewed a woman who was addicted to crack. And when I tell you about what, her answers to certain questions that he gave are infuriating. And it's just like, wow, there are really people who think like this.
Oh,
and
dear.
Yeah, it's quite, I'm not going to give it away.
I'm in for it. Yeah, so I'm in for it, basically.
Yeah, yes, you are. It is quite, I haven't seen it in a while. And spoiler alert, I am in it. So, I am in the documentary. I had different hair back then, but what you say?
No, I was gonna say, speaking of documentaries you were in, you were also in the documentary God Talk. That was it co-produced by the Smithsonian?
It is a production of the Smithsonian, the National Museum for African American Culture.
And yes, you were definitely in that. But I wanted to say that, that one part. I believe it was a trans woman, I believe, being interviewed, and she said when she was a little. Can we say when they were a little boy, or?
Well, at the time, yes, they were.
Okay.
They were.
I don't know if I'm being insulting, but yeah, when they were a little boy. When she said that she got up and saw that man just
going to town. Going to town on what they were being told or what was being confided in them. And that pastor was one of those fire and brimstone type of preachers. And so yes.
But it's like, and it's so crazy, right? Because it's the LGBTs that's like, the child predators. But here this man is just masturbating in front of a child. First of all, what kind of
supposedly trying to hide it, but didn't do a good job of it.
What brain do you have? Like, I don't even want to understand the brain of a person who would think, I could get away with this. Like, what?
Yeah. I mean, and it's I totally understand what you mean.
And that's why, being and any atheist orgs, because unfortunately, a lot of LGBT, youth are abused, by the supposed anti-gays.
Right. Yeah.
And
that's exactly right.
And thank goodness for communities like ours, who can, help them recover from religion, like and just any sort of traumas, like without and you mentioned someone addicted to drugs. I think, does recovery from religion also provide substance abuse rehab?
Well, I'm not sure if they do that. I'm not sure if they do that specifically, so I don't want to I don't want to say that.
Or I'm pretty sure there are secular narcotics.
Yeah, you have
recovery.
What is it called? There's something. There is a secular sobriety program. Let me look that up real quick. Smart.
Yeah.
Smart recovery.
Smart. Okay. Smart recovery.
That is definitely a secular program. So it's and then also too, because recovery from religion has it's a lot like us, even though they're a little larger. They've been around a few years, maybe a couple of years longer than us, but at the same time, it's we offer a lot of peer support. They do have people who they train to talk for their hotline. They really do they really do a lot of good peer support, and people don't, I think it's important for people to realize that, again, that there is so much more support out there than people may think. And yes, when it comes to like recovery from substances, it doesn't always have to be this thing where you're demonized for it, right? Because a lot of these programs tend to be punitive, where people are punished for being, for being addicts. And we've certainly seen that in the criminal justice system when it comes to Black folks. We've seen that far too. We've seen that far too often. Yes, that quote unquote war on drugs. Yeah, but I think it is important that if people need that help, that they get it. And people need to understand that, it's just not simply this black and white thing. Now, these are things that we can certainly talk about, because we're going to be talking about one of our speakers, shout out to Nikki G, who's going to be talking about, so it's going to be talking about religious trauma, like Black religious trauma and recovery and what that looks like. So we're going to have quite a robust program. And various subject matters that we will touch on, as well as music by someone named Tintin.
By yours truly.
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous, man.
Nah, don't be.
Being next to Shelly Segal, that's
Shelly Segal is my girl. That she is so awesome.
Segal or Segal? Which one?
Segal.
Shelly
Segal. Yeah.
Sorry. But yeah, that's because I heard her get a lot of praise in the community, but I'm excited to showcase my talents, because I have a finally released the EP on Bandcamp.
Oh, nice.
I have to do some fixings to get it released on Apple Music and the like. But yes, it is on Bandcamp, so I will be having my QR code ready after the
performance, as you should.
If you guys, want to be nice to me. But yes, I thank you so much for inviting me. And just covering the hotel fee and all that. I feel like, I feel.
Well, here's and the thing, right? Here's the thing. For people need to understand that in order for us to host events like this, they cost money. We don't just exist in a vacuum. These things are not, they don't just happen out of the blue. I'd like to thank our sponsors for supporting us with this, with this event. But we still have, we're going to have refreshments there. Admission covers food. It covers, and we need more, we need more people supporting. Like if you can't come in person, tune in online. We're going to be live streaming it. This is an effort to fundraise for the organization. And, in order to cover support, and you're going to be helping us out too, Tenzin. So I appreciate that. And the thing is that people, as much as we realize that people have had issues with, the church and the church manipulating them out of time and money, this is not a manipulation, because, and you're hearing my cat here. You are getting some very valuable information, some very valuable community, and it's just important that people really support the work that we do, because it's needed. And so in order for us to cover a cost like being able to put you up in a hotel and to support our speakers, some of who are traveling, and some of who are local, and also it does cost. So and I know that so there are some folks who might be, they might be a little, financially, unable, and we certainly, take that into consideration. And if that is the case where some people would like to go and they can't really afford the full admission, then you can definitely talk to us about, trying to subsidize. But I think what we are, offering for admission for the weekend is very, is very reasonable. It is reasonable, for lack of a better term. So, we would like for people to come out, have a good time, see what we're about, learn from, the folks who will be there, and get more involved.
And this hotel did not double book us with a religious group.
Not that I'm aware
Okay.
of. I do know that the Atlanta Auto Show is taking place. That's this coming weekend as well. But
Okay.
but yeah, no, we haven't been double booked to my knowledge,
Oh man.
buddy.
I mean, that'd have been an awkward cookout. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, no. The event center definitely, which is down the street from the hotel. We're the only ones in it that weekend.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
And I will tell you something, Tenzin, like, and because I come from the world of hospitality, like
hmm
I absolutely love working with people who work in like restaurants in the hotel industry because it's often so underrated, and support for
Right.
people who are providing the support for people who make things happen behind the scenes, and people have no idea what that looks like. That is important for people to understand how that works. And
hmm
I always I always treat the people who work with us with the utmost respect. And there are folks who are like, well, whatever conceptions they had about us, about non-believers, they're like, huh, you know we tend to dispel myths, right? People are like, well, you're not at all what I thought an atheist would be like. Right? I don't know if you heard that before, but that
Yeah.
does tend to
Yeah.
happen. That tends to happen quite a bit with
Yeah.
us. They're like,
Yeah. I had
huh.
I had a couple of people be like, "Oh, wow, you're very nice," for an atheist. Okay, I'll take that. I this is random, but there was a few times, and it drives me up the wall when motherfuckers try to like tell me what the fuck I am, because I
Oh
I call
yeah, we
myself
get
a
that a lot.
capital A atheist, right? But when I explain my beliefs to them, they be like, "Oh, you're not an atheist, you're an agnostic." No, I'm an atheist.
Right, right.
Don't get it twisted.
Because
Like,
atheism is just one side of us, right? It just means that we don't
right,
subscribe to believe in God, spiritual, supernatural beings. It says very little about the type of person that I am, but I like to show
right.
that. I like to show the type of
Mhm.
person that I am, as opposed to, because when people say I'm a Christian, I'm like, whoa. When people say that,
Okay.
that gives me pause. I'm like,
Right.
ugh, you know.
That means they're cool with slavery, I guess. Like,
I mean, there's so many things that they could possibly be, definitely be, perceived as being cool with, and it's
you
like,
know, sister, if it wasn't for you see, the Lord used slavery so we could get to America, so our sinful black asses could learn about Jesus. That's what.
mm,
Oh, I hate that take. I hate it so
yeah, I do
much.
too, and I didn't even think that was a real thing. Having not grown
Oh
up in
no.
that religious space, I never realized that people actually said shit like that. I was like, are you out of
Oh
your mind?
man, like what? When was the first time you heard it? It had to be when you moved to Georgia, right? Because I know he was like, "What the fuck kind of
I
shit is that
think
to
it
say?"
might have even been
Like,
like after I got involved with the community. Like when I started getting involved in activism, I had never seen a Christian say. Now, it doesn't mean they haven't said it before, but the fact that I had never actually seen that until, because most of the Christians I knew were very much about Black liberation. It's just
mm-hmm.
that they couldn't let go of that God concept.
Right, yeah,
But a lot of the Christians I knew would have never said, thank God for slavery. But they did, they did sort of credit God with, getting us through all of these atrocities. And it's like, yeah, the irony of that, of
mm-hmm.
that mindset. It's quite, you know,
Because it's like,
but
okay, so who was God talking to? Because
right, yeah,
the white people believe in him too. But hey,
yeah, yeah. Go figure. But yeah, no, I'm very much looking forward to the
me
revival.
too.
And anyone who is watching, there is still time to register for the in-person and virtual. Virtual registration will probably be available like online throughout the entire weekend. Now, in-person registrations, we will probably, we'll probably make sure that we, like, if you're going to come at the door, we'll take in-person admission there. But for anyone else who is just, you're planning to come down, just come on down in person, and then you can do your admission there. But if you're gonna be tuning in to the live stream, that'll be open all weekend. So yeah. I mean, like, on the website.
Right.
So in-person registrations will be available on the website until Friday morning.
Okay. Time's running low.
Yeah, it's running low. We are 2 days away now, less than that, and we want to make sure that we are planning accordingly. And if you can't make it, and or even if you just want to support the work that Black Non-Believers does, please make a donation. We take donations. We need them. We appreciate them. We count on them for the work that we do. And you can also become an official member now. We have an official membership process, which gets you discounts on which folks get discounts on being events.
You gotta vet the crazies.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you know what? Sometimes how you vet those folks is when you have them put their money where their mouths are. Because usually people are not going to donate to what they really don't support. So, and I mean, and that's one of the plugs that I have for folks who are watching, who will be watching in the future. If this resonates with you, if this is important to you, and our mission speaks to you, you realize that we are out here, really doing some very, very important work, please support it. I'm not sitting up here. I mean, Marcus, you've been involved with us for a long time. You know that we put our money where our mouths are.
2011. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. We definitely have been about that, that community life. We have definitely, encouraged people and have done, definitely have encouraged people to, try to be more of their authentic selves, because that is important. So we definitely want folks to know that, there is support out here for you, and that, nobody here is trying to sell you, a bill of goods, or, we're not going to pour syrup on shit and call it pancakes, right? We're going to try to keep it as,
I might have some Peter Popoff miracle water for sale, but
you might have some what?
Peter Popoff miracle water.
Yeah, nah, we don't do. Yeah, I heard that. I'm like, nah, we don't do stuff like that. But yeah, we are. I'm over here. Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I was gonna say before we wrap things up, I do want to glaze Mandisa a little bit here. So
oh my goodness.
No, I'm being serious. At least since I've known you, which was 2011, you've been working very hard for this organization. You've definitely put in the footwork. I remember the year when you decided to go full time. I know that had to be very scary. I know you've stayed up countless nights, talking to different people, maybe talking to your husband about it, talking to your family, just really weighing, what it'll be.
Mm-hmm.
But then you took that leap.
Mm-hmm.
And you made some good strides. And despite the strides you made, you still look out for not only your local chapter of BN, but just BN in general. So I do want to shout my appreciation to you for organizing, just being an organizer in general. So
thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, it's often, I think I've said this before, if you're getting in this to be rich and famous, then you're kind of barking up the wrong tree here. But and you have to, and it's because I think it is so important I know how being liberated as an atheist was to me, and what that meant for, like my identity, what that meant for what I wanted for my family, what I wanted my children to know you know, what could be important to them. So, you know, and it's just been, and to know that there are so many people out there who are still struggling with this and they don't know that there is support out there for them. It is important that we continue to do this. And I just remember what it was like for me. And I know also what it can be like for other people. And that has been one of the most gratifying parts of being a part of this community and being part of this work, is that we really are making substantive, there is substantive change, like the fact that we are in that God Talk documentary, right? You know, the fact that
Right.
we are the organization that the National Museum for African American Culture reached out to represent non-belief and what atheism looks like in Black communities. That says a lot. That's
It's a big
important.
deal.
That's huge. Yes, it is very much a big deal, which means that we are an institution now, and it is time for the people who are a part of our organization to understand, you know, what that looks like and what that means for us, you know, as we are continuing to navigate what some folks are trying to do to, you know, to destroy that. And it's just like, you know, like I said, it's sometimes it just feels so weird, you know, to kind of it feels kind of weird to be at this point now, but I'm glad that we're here. I really, really am. So again, and I thank you for being such a part of being for a very, very long time now. Like, you one of our OGs now, Tenzin. So it's like, yeah, this is just, you know,
Oh man.
but that
Yeah,
just goes, that also just goes,
y'all watch me grow up.
yeah, we did. So I'm really, really grateful for that opportunity to see folks grow. And it doesn't necessarily mean like grow up as like children, right? Because we have adults who have come to us who were, I wouldn't say definitely afraid, but they were seriously afraid of what you know, what expressing their non-belief to their families would look like. Mm-hmm. Now they don't give a fuck. They're like, look, you know, they will take them to task.
Right.
And that is the power of what being a part of a community does. It allows you to find your voice. It allows you to find your passion and what that may look like and how you engage in the future. And if I'm sounding preachy, I apologize. Kind of not really, though. But you know, it is important that people need to understand the power of, you know, their voice and what they can do, you know, in this crazy climate. And we have been, you know, we have connected with folks who have come to our events, and if you've never been to a BN event, it's an experience. Especially one of our bigger events. It's great. So yeah, it's definitely worth you coming out to. It's definitely worth you watching online. It's worth you know, getting to know our movement partners, the work they do, how we're working together, and how we are amplifying our voices and amplifying our work and amplifying our art. Those things are very, very important.
Could not have said that any better myself. Thank you once again, Mandisa Thomas, for gracing us here on the SOS podcast. Everybody, please be sure to check Mandisa and myself out at the Revival of Reason this weekend, March 21st through the 23rd. All right. Have a great Wednesday night, everyone.
Good night.